Oh, yeah, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. We are here with a very special guest today. We have Summer McStravick, who for 2 decades, she has been practicing a technique for almost surreal level manifesting and potent inner healing that she accidentally pioneered 20 years ago. She has worked with the likes of Louise Hay and Greg Braden and Dr. Wayne Dyer. That is a list of healers that you have been around, Summer.
Oh, yes. Life sent me on a wild and interesting path, and I followed. What can you do?
Yeah, interesting that the universe put you there with those people. Tell me about that. How did that all start? How did you get into the wellness world, and how did you come to be around those people?
Well, I think I was born into the wellness world. My mother was a master herbalist, and I spent a great deal of my childhood being hauled around to libraries and conference rooms while she lectured and taught people about various uses for cayenne pepper or golden seal. So, coming into that world was by blood. Um, However, when you're a kid, you kind of want to end up doing anything but what your parents are like. So I decided to go to college for literature and writing. And I was determined I would go into publishing and not do any of that woo woo stuff, that healing. No, I was going to be smart and, you know. Anyway, long story short, I found my way into graphic design, editing, and a very odd little letter that I mailed one day to Hay House Publishing because they were a publisher and the only publisher really in where I live, San Diego. Sent a letter, hey, do you want me to lay out your books? And I never followed up. I didn't even look to see if they had job openings. I was just sent it, forgot it. What do you know? They call me up. Yeah, we want you. Come on in. Do you want to work here? And I said, oh, I was thinking freelance. They're like, no, you should work here. Like, no, 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 no. A funny story. I even told them, can I work here for 2 weeks? And if I hate it, can I go back to being freelance? I mean, I can't believe I even did that. I can't believe my boss said yes. She was wonderful. Anyway, long story short, I got woven right back into the fabric of the wellness world with Louise and Wayne and all. Just boy, the early 2000s and 2010s were kind of a magical time for a lot of personal growth, healers, etc., really kind of coming up in the world. And my job was to shepherd them through their online experience, if you can believe that. Put together their
Yeah,
podcasts and webinars. I don't know.
yeah. Oh my God, I bet you have some fascinating stories.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to pick selectively which ones should we talk about.
Yeah, well, it's
Life
just such
always
a
brings you.
it's such
Go
a
ahead.
list. I mean, Susie Orman that I left out, Marianne
Yeah.
Williamson, Esther Hicks. I mean, this is pretty. These are like the elite of the elite, and they're great creators and they're great writers. I would be
Yeah.
interested if, um, yeah, was there always a skill accompanied with putting that system or that belief or that great work of art out into the online world? Sometimes that
Mhm.
doesn't transfer into like the creators don't always lay things out for people in a digestible form.
Yeah. So in 2005, we put together a radio network, an online radio network. I know it sounds funny now, like who does that? But remember, 2005. Scroll back with me a little
Yeah.
bit.
Now we call it
There were,
podcasting.
yeah, bingo, right? There were almost no models to follow. We just winged it. And my responsibility, my division was to build out a studio, literally podcasting studio. Um, and help our authors uh, showcase their work to the world. So they would put out a book, and then we'd say, let's do a radio show around it, or let's put together a newfangled thing. They're called webinars. What's that? I don't know. How do I do one? I'm like, it's just like you're on stage, but you're in front of a computer. Oh, okay. Well, I'll try that. And your question about how do you take a person's lifelong teaching and package it into today, like we throw around courses like, oh, no big deal, just make an online course. That was different back then. These teachers were very used to only getting their messages out in two different ways: live on a stage or in the words of a page, right? So a book. So to say to them, look, I'm going to have you talk into a microphone. You're going to get no feedback. You're not going to see anybody. You're not going to hear anybody. You're just going to talk. And for some people, it really threw them, because without the audience engagement, sort of the energetics
Yeah.
going back and forth in a room, I remember there were several people that they were just like, I cannot do this.
Hmm.
No, flat no. And others, of course, just were born to it. Like Susie Orman, she was, she could do anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So it sounds like
that's the answer. Some people are
but
born for it, and some people aren't. But putting their webinars together and really, it was any form of audio.
hmm
So we had to put together books on tape, audio books, and so forth. I think what I gleaned from it, though, after doing it and producing so many episodes and so many programs, um, some programs are very much, here's a new way to think,
hmm
and some people add to that thinking a component of doing. And I think the thinking and doing components work best. The thinking only ones are good for shifting your mind and shifting your perspective and your paradigm. But unless you do some boots on the ground with it, they seem to be less effective, right? They snap back a little bit
Yeah.
to your old
Yeah.
way.
I think that's the way the human mind is programmed. There's so much
Mm.
hardwiring for survival. So when we find something that works, we want to, it hurts to change that. And so to unpattern or reprogram, it really does take the doing. That's been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, but it's funny how we thirst for it. I mean, think about the market for self-help, or people who know, they're like, God, there's something inside me that's so much more than what I'm living today. But the pattern is to buy book after book after book and course after course. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know the completion rate on courses online, but it's not good. It's like 9%. People don't do
Yeah.
them. I mean, some people do, but it's a very
Mm-hmm.
low completion rate. So it's interesting the way the psyche is interwoven with the ways of change, and whether we do or don't lean into that. So you had this
Yeah.
dream job. You had this dream
Yeah.
job, but you're not still doing that today. What happened?
No. Well, yeah. So over my life, I've had a series of pivot points, some of them health related, like you, some of them pivoting me just out of things that I've outgrown. And like you said, people don't like to give up where they are because it's comfortable. Um, Life wants you to continue to grow,
Hmm.
continue to expand, evolve. And that's the funny thing. Once you get really good at something, once you become an expert, it's sort of like, okay, you're done. You can teach it, but where's your growth happening? Like, what's next for you? So I always think of it as the conundrum of being an expert. By the time you reach that point, you're pretty much done with it and you're ready to move on and do something else. I can't tell you how many people I have encountered in that same situation. So it was 2009. I had just been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, interstitial cystitis, which is where your bladder bleeds and attacks itself. It's like having ulcers in your
Mm-hmm.
bladder all the time. It's awful. And I remember I came back from the hospital and I was told, you got to clear out your desk. And I said, wait, what? What are you talking about? Like, what? This makes no sense. All my performance reviews are 5 stars. We're making tons of money and everything is great. Well, Hay House went through a restructuring, a shuffling that year. I happened to be the first one to go.
Mm.
And I think it didn't start my personal growth journey, but it sure was a big cliffhanger in it. Here I am. I've got 2 little kids at home. I've got this constant bleeding going on, super painful, and I'm suddenly out of a job. And the thoughts that I'd had prior to that, like, if you just do a really good job, if you work hard, if you prove yourself, if you do a good job, then you will be rewarded. And this was the first moment that I realized wait a minute, it's like I made some bargain with the universe, but the universe didn't bargain back. I just made that up in my head. That's not actually what always happens. You can do a great job and still lose your job, right?
Hmm.
You can think you're on top of the world, and the universe and life can still say, oh yeah, but you're done with that now. Hindsight, is the best thing that happened to me, frankly. I had been dreaming of taking my own work, Flowdreaming. I'd written a book that Hay House published. I had a podcast with them, started it in 2005, all called Flowdreaming. My work was taken off. I was starting to lecture and kind of becoming a teacher in my own right.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the moment that life said, you can stay here and keep supporting everybody else. I mean, we basically put you in this position so you get your MBA in how to do all this, right? You want to be a teacher? We'll skill you up in that. You can start by making, helping other stuff with all there, like learn from the best, right? But I got caught in that and I didn't realize, oh, now I have to go and do it on my own. Wow, is this what it looks like? And I wouldn't do it voluntarily. So, kind of get swept out to do it. Again, I could hug and squeeze and kiss that old situation now, as devastating as it was to my personal identity, especially. In hindsight, I would never have built my own company, been teaching the last, 15 years, written more books, helped the people I've helped. No, I don't know how long it would have taken me to have the courage to do that.
Hmm.
But life said, hey, here you go. You're ready. Bye, little birdie.
Yeah, you said you could kiss and hug that situation today,
Mhm.
but I can
Yeah.
imagine at the time there were some other feelings involved with that. What
Yeah.
probably felt like a forced move. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I don't want to go too much into the details of what was going on with the restructure and all that. But I think the biggest feeling I had was, this is who I am. This is what I do. Um, and I felt pride in it, but I also had my identity attached to it. As in, I'm the person who does all these things for all of these people. Therefore, I am a worthy and good person. I am a
Mm-hmm.
person of recognition and stature. I don't know how to describe it, right? But when you feel pride in something, yeah, I made that. And that is, I think, what got broken the most. Um, I made that. Great. Now move on from that. That's not all of who you are. And so I had to scramble around and figure out, well, what's the rest of me? It's not as good as what that was. Well, go build it. Go find what the rest of you is. Go see what else you're going to expand into. That was the hardest part. So I spent, I joke about it in my book. I spent about 3 years. I say I did one of three things. I cried, I fought with my husband, and I threw wild parties to get myself, out of my own mind. I don't mean two wild parties, but there were a lot of
Yeah,
pool parties going on back then with my kids. And
I
then
love it.
I finally realized, look, people keep asking me about flow dreaming and they keep wanting more. Why don't I embrace this? Maybe this is who I am now. And so I began that rebuilding process.
Yeah. So in that rebuilding process, you've left this publishing, content creation
Mhm.
flagship. You're out on your own, but you've been diagnosed with this very painful autoimmune condition. Um,
Yeah.
did anything else unfold with your health in that time? I just know how these stories go because there's so many emotions that drive the body's immune system to start attacking itself. So if you
Yeah.
couldn't help us, what was next?
Well, in hindsight, again, I think the autoimmune condition, the cystitis, came up because I truly was under years of unrelenting stress. And because I was enjoying the stress, didn't mean it wasn't still stress. My body was saying, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Nope, nope, nope. Eventually, it took a while for the condition to clear. It took a number of years, actually,
Hmm.
about 10. And it's one of those conditions that it supposedly doesn't go away. So I feel so grateful that it did. Very lucky. But a few years later, here we are. I built a new company. I have my own company now, my own big, beautiful, worldwide Flowdreaming juggernaut, teaching courses, teaching just hundreds, thousands of students, writing. It's just all my dreams, right? This is what I want, this is who I am. Right at the pinnacle of this is 2015. I feel a lump in my breast. You know where this is going. And I'm only 43. I'm like, wait, what? What? What's going on here? Of course, it was cancer that had spread. So it was stage 2. And I guess that was a second breaking point, pivot point. Breaking is kind of a harsh word. It's sort of both. So if you think about the feelings that I had in 2009 when I left Hay House, circle back around again 6 years later. But this time, the betrayal I felt was my own body. Now, I use the word betrayal very loosely, almost like sarcastically, because that's how it feels at the time. Like, body, we had an agreement. You're going to live till you're 90, just like your grandparents. And I don't understand. Why would you do this to me? I've done everything good. At the time, I had been vegetarian for 24 years. I was doing CrossFit. I was, in great shape, perfect weight, everything. Why would you do this to me? And again, that's when my identity had to shift yet one more time. And I had to really look at that so-called agreement that I thought I had with my body and realize, again, it was a pretty one-sided assumption. It wasn't some universal agreement. And my body was saying, you have to experience this. And instead of, let's say in the beginning, of course, it was crying and sniveling all over the bathroom floor and just feeling like, well, anybody who's ever had a big diagnosis, there's the moments, multiple moments of utter breakdown for some of us when it's unexpected, right? Or any big loss or grief. And that's for me what I experienced, just incredible grief. Just grief. I grieved for myself. I remember at one point thinking, I'm not just grieving because I'm scared and I've got 2 kids in grade school and I might not be there. I'm not just grieving because I could die from this. I'm grieving for every crappy thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. It was like my heart opened up and all the stuff that had been stored in it over the years was suddenly free, bubbled out. Just, the cancer was the cork on the top and it popped and everything came out. And the depth of grief and the catharsis of letting that happen, I know afterwards it was kind of a weird situation, but I was able to go into a kind of ecstasy, emotionally. Just the lightness, the clarity, just it's a way of feeling that's very difficult to describe, and it sounds almost bizarre when I say it. But I can still kind of reach back and feel that, being able to just go into that purity of lightness and lack of any and all heavy feelings. So that was a game changer for me, going through the cancer experience. And when you lose all your hair and you suddenly go from being a fit and full of yourself 43-year-old to someone who just feels like crap every day, and the world is looking at you like, you poor pitiful thing. I once again had to find out, well, who am I now? Because again, that person that I thought I built myself into, that I got so, this is how the world sees me, she's not there now. Now you got to be somebody else yet again. Who are you going to be this time? So yeah, it keeps going. You asked if I had any other things happen. Yes, indeed, I did.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping the next time the universe gives me some pivot points, I want them to be joyful ones, because, they come in all shapes and forms. So I spend a lot of time now talking like, hey, those were some big ones. And I know I had promised I wanted to learn how to get beyond all the fear in my life, right? Because that was a kind of a mantra I had in 2015. I'm like, look, the only thing stopping me from everything right now is fear in any and all of its forms. So, get me through that. Life hands me that. So I'm very careful now what I ask life for, as well as, can we do it in a way that's joyful this time?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, I'd said that multiple times in my life that I'm careful what I ask for, and going forward, I ask. I ask the universe. It was like, can I learn these lessons coming forward with ease and grace? Is that possible if you'll allow it? Because I'm open to receiving. I'm
mhm,
open to the subtle cues to say,
yeah.
you know what, this isn't work you can push off for another 12 months. You actually got to do
Mhm,
this now. You got to make some big changes. So
yeah.
I that deeply resonates. And the other thing that resonates, and I align with you, I join with you, is a sense of post cancer diagnosis and through the treatment. There's a lightness and an ecstasy about life that's never left. That was not there in that degree or the amplitude before cancer. So I truly
Mhm.
think we are the lucky ones. There's this term going around all the time when it makes me cringe when people say "fuck cancer." I was like, they hashtag that on their posts, and without judgment,
Yeah.
I was like, well, do you want cancer to breed? Are you asking to procreate with cancer? Is it, um, or
I
is
never saw
this?
it like that, but
Yeah, well, words have power, right? Abracadabra. With my words, I do create. So,
mhm.
and then that other energetic is it's hard. I almost feel like you got to make this agreement. You don't have to, but this is the way I've chose to see it. If these experiences in life they're either all divine miracles or none of them are. So it's hard to cherry pick and say, oh my God, God really blessed me on this day. We won the Super Bowl. And then you see, no, on like Monday, it goes away. It's like, oh, it sucks. My car broke down. This is terrible. How can this be happening to me? So I
Mhm.
think you got to pick one. I think that served me to operate like that anyway. I don't know if that resonates with you at all.
Yeah, that term cherry picking is actually a term I use quite frequently in my teachings, to share the same idea. You can't say you were gifted something beautiful and wonderful, and that was good, but this other thing you were given is terrible and shouldn't be here. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there's going to be something in all of these things. It's not, again, like you said, it's either all happenstance, all just a volatile explosion of just stuff, or there's some threads of direction and development and consciousness and expansion that guide and weave these pieces together. So, yeah, looking at cancer, looking at, a number of issues that I've had quite a few health issues through my life. When I approached cancer, it was, um, who do you want to be in this experience?
Hmm.
How do you want to be in this experience? Those are the questions I just kept asking over and over. And, I had to pull that from my prior experience, having been let go of my dream job. How do you want to be in this experience? I didn't know how to ask those questions then, but, give me a few years later, and I started to understand that. And it really changed how I went through it, and really how I go through everything since. And the level of trust that if I'm being given something to experience, there's a really, really good reason for it. And maybe I don't see it right now, but how do I want to be through this? Because I know I will understand it at some point down the road.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amen. Now, I have to ask you a
Yeah.
couple of questions about your previous job that are linked to this experience. So,
Mhm.
Dr. Wayne Dyer, Greg Braden, Esther
Mhm.
Hicks, you were around these incredible thought leaders that are
Yes.
just giving light to the world. How
Mhm.
did that background impact your journey through cancer specifically, if it did?
I really can't pinpoint any particular person's teachings that I said, this is the one that's going to carry me through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it might sound strange or self-aggrandizing, but I used my own process of flow dreaming, which was my way of communicating, my way of programming, manifesting, uh, healing, connecting with source. I use that predominantly. But I do know that having, like I said, grown up in this world um, with thought leaders and healers like this. You take all of these ingredients and you throw them in the soup, and you get a soup. I can't say that it was the cayenne or the ginger or the or the garlic. I'm not sure if it was Wayne's or Greg's or any of them, or is all of them. All of them.
Yeah.
I think it just nurtures a viewpoint, a perspective of look deeper. What's in here? Can you learn from this? What's to be found? Look through this, the what do you call it? The dirt for the pearls, or there's this, that's not the saying, but something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think it
Yeah.
was all of them, frankly, all of them.
Yeah. Beautiful. I would imagine, even if by osmosis,
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
swimming and all that. It's fascinating to me. The You've mentioned flow dreaming a few times. Can you give us the basics on how someone would understand about the concept of flow dreaming and how that is used as an application to improve your life, your state of being?
Yeah. I will. I'll tell you briefly, because it's a big thing. It's huge. Flow dreaming is a little bit like yoga, right? There's a physical practice. You can go and just do the thing. But there's also kind of philosophy that you can dive deep into. Why are these movements? What's the energy that's moving? How are you part of something bigger? The physical process of doing flow dreaming um, is a bit like meditation, a bit like creative visualization, a bit like a lot of things, but really none of those. It takes three, I call it the three pillars involved in doing the actual technique. One is guided daydreaming. The other one is calling up deep, strong emotion. And the third one is getting into a state of flow or perfect universal alignment. And flow state is obviously a recognized psychological state. I use flow state to connect spiritually, to connect energetically with everything, as opposed to just keeping it trapped in my brain so I can get into flow state around solving a problem or having a great golf game, which
Or
is
getting
how.
the Tesla Cybertruck, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I bring these three components together in, a technique that it sort of takes me into a different state of awareness. And in that state, I am communicating. And sometimes I'm just in alignment and I'm receiving and I'm hearing and I'm feeling ease and flow and perfect direction with everything in my life. And sometimes I'm in there and I'm having a conversation. This is who I am. This is how I feel. These are the experiences that I'm growing and becoming. And some of those are things that I want to quote manifest. I feel I'm in a gorgeous state of vibrant health. All anxiety has left me. I feel peaceful, abundant, rampant with just possibilities and joy and clarity. I feel these things. I'm speaking them for you, but I'm actually feeling them. It does more. It's not that I'm programming my subconscious. I'm very aware of where I'm at. It's almost like allowing that explosion of self and energy and emotion to just volcano out and kind of reshape who you are. Kind of like meditation reshapes the neural pathways of your brain. Flow dreaming does the same thing. It
Mm.
creates new pathways, creates new emotional pathways as well. Philosophically, connecting into flow and flow dreaming is a recognition that, let's say that life can go forward or backward. Time could go forward or backward. We could be aging, or we could be getting younger and becoming a child. Our universe seems to have chosen one particular direction, and it pretty much asserts it, which is a state of no resistance. And the Earth just flies around the sun. The universe just expands. We don't have to even try, but we're getting older. We don't have to try, but we are being handed minute after minute time itself. It's like a baton. We keep receiving another minute, another moment. And there's a flow to it. A direction of again, pure flow and lack of all restriction or resistance. Now, the opposite of that is pure resistance, pure block, pure push, getting nowhere. So I look at the world in terms of, am I in a state of ease and flow? Am I aligning with this natural rhythm of growth, evolution, expanded consciousness, or am I doing things that are putting me in resistance to that? And I use my emotions as a barometer that tells me. The negative emotions are usually indicating there's some resistance you're encountering. Why are you doing that? Positive ones are and we can feel it, like joy and laughter. There's a light to it. There's an ease to those feelings. Grief, pain, anger. There's a resistance. There's a charge to those. Now they're valuable too because, think of it like you're bowling, right? And you got the little bumper guides up on either side. If you have ever had kids, you know those things. When you hit the bumper on the side, it's not pleasant, right? But it's meant to get you back into the lane. Negative emotions are gorgeous because they give you those opportunities to get back into the lane over and over again. It's only when we keep those emotions blaring and we don't do anything about them, then they're like a fire alarm that you can't get turned off on your ceiling. And so eventually you just stop listening to it altogether, but it keeps blaring. And that's when we get all that low-lying, constant negativity, anxiety, frustration, stuckness, confusion. For me, these are all forms of those emotions that are telling you something. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But it's my practice, and it's taken me through everything for the
Yeah.
last 20 years.
It's beautiful. As you're saying that, I'm just reminded how the body follows exactly the same rules.
Mm-hmm.
That the body is going to give a voice or a signal when something is off biochemically, electrically, and if we choose to mute that signal for long enough, it turns into a bigger problem. And so we have to find this balance of palliating for a little bit and taking the person out of immediate pain, but then also we have to go deeper. We have to look. We have to be the Sherlock Holmes of our own physical body as well as we do the emotional body. And you got to do both. I think that's the thing. You got to do both. There's no way around it. It's so wild that they both they work so similarly. It's fascinating. I just had I got really sick last week. Like horrible bone pain, viral infection, chest congestion, could barely get off the couch. I mean, I was so sick. And one of my good friends said, she's like, well, I hope you enjoy this upgrade to your Th1 immune pathway, which is the branch that's sending cytokines, a cytokine storm, to the viral infection. Because without that, when we rely on old antibodies or falsely propping up the Th2, which is the memory, realistically, immune system, we get this like Popeye with this one huge like bicep, and we get this. That is the imbalancing the body. So I really embraced. It was funny. I was like, I've never felt this way about a really bad flu before. But I was like, ooh, I'm upgrading. Like I kept having that thought in my head about, I was like, oh, I wonder what sludge is being cleaned out inside. Cause it's been a long time. It's been a minute since I was really, really sick. Yeah. Fascinating. Isn't it? We always need, and just like you were pushed out of this comfortable nest multiple times because you had to be, you had to be. I love that. I'm so interested. Where would people go to discover if they wanted to learn more about Flowdreaming? And where would you tell somebody, like a never ever, where do you start?
Well, I'm all over the internets. If
Yeah.
somebody just look up, just Google Flowdreaming. You will find my site. I have an app for your phone. So what I've done over the years is I've produced many, many courses. I've got like 36 of them, I think, because that's what, obviously, I've been well trained in making courses, right?
Sure.
For the last few decades. So I've made 36 of my own, 30, 37, 38, where I explore putting this flow perspective into multiple aspects of living, from anything from health to gaining friendships to increasing your, safety and abundance, all kinds of them. I also made more than 300 recorded flow dreams, which sort of like meditation. You can meditate on your own, or you can use a guided meditation that's been created for you. Flow dreaming is the same. You can flow dream on your own, or you can follow the narration of someone who says, I'm going to lead you into the spaces and the emotions that you want to feel so that you can create or become this particular thing. So all of that is on my website, or my podcast, Flowdreaming, as well. Yes, find me everywhere. Learn
Amazing.
about it. And I teach it for free. I've got a kit. I give you free things. I've always taught this process for free. The things that I offer in addition to that are programs to take it deeper, right? To
Yeah.
show you what you can really do with this tool. It's like giving
Yeah.
somebody a violin. Here you go. Here's your violin. Learn it on your own or come take some lessons. But here's the violin. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Use it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's fun to do with other people. I
Mm-hmm.
the a couple of the last questions I just love to get your insight on. Is it your experience that lately um I've been so I withdraw when when I'm invited to an event and it's like conscious community, conscious dancing, conscious part. I'm like, what is that? It makes me pull back because in my experience, it can be so lofty and unattainable to connect sometimes in those events. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I was like, God, I want people to just be real and be raw and come with all your flaws and like, all the things, but also just know that you're also committed to improvement in your life and kindness, and we want to do better for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever pulled away from that and like, I want to separate myself? It's just too much.
Yeah. But first of all, I also want to say I'm so glad you're feeling better. I mean, I would
Oh,
never have known you were sick last week. So that old
yeah.
body of yours must have just kicked some ass.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Upgrade.
yeah.
I got the upgrade.
I just want to acknowledge that. Like,
Thank you.
prop.
I really do feel better.
You've earned
And
it. Yeah.
I'll tell you
Hmm.
this, yeah. From a history of like Lyme and autoimmune, sometimes in the past it would throw me for like months and months and months, and
Yeah.
I feel better. I feel
Hmm.
like even that light of knowing and remembrance of the sweet nectar of being alive is a little
Yeah.
brighter post
Hmm.
being sick, and it was totally the my friends just like embrace this upgrade, and
Yeah.
that really it stuck with me. It's very powerful.
So you did both. You did physical healing and you
Yeah,
did emotional healing, which for me,
yeah,
healing isn't complete unless you do both. And
yeah.
sometimes, oddly, the emotional healing can take a lot longer than the physical healing. We just drag it around. For me, the cancer was like that. It took me years to feel healed emotionally from the experience,
Mm,
whereas, it took only about a year for it to go out of my system. Anyway,
yeah.
now we're going off in different
No, it's
streams of
great. Let's
conversation.
drift. Let's flow.
The let's drift. um, Gosh, those conscious communities. It's a real mixed bag. I'm a little bit of a heretic when it comes to this because when I was younger, I'm older now, but in my 30s, 20s, even 40s, I'd be like, yeah, let's go dance on a beach late at night with some drums and some, bonfires and what, throw it at me. Uh, Now that I'm a bit older, uh, I see people trying to show their feathers, like a bunch of peacocks, a bunch of birds. Look at me, I'm this way. This is who I am. I sense and feel that a lot more, which is fine and normal because we all do that in our communities.
We all do
The
that.
dress we wear, the clothes we put on, the way that we, try to show ourselves to the world. We're always trying to fit in with one community or another. So it can be overwhelming. Um, I'm I also work as an empath. So intuitively, when I walk into situations where there's a lot of what's not the word? It's not showboating, but there's a lot of awareness of this is
Posturing.
how I want posturing. Yeah, perceive me this way. Um, it kind of makes me want to back out of the room too. I'd rather
Yeah.
go sit in the hallway with somebody else who's feeling overwhelmed and be like, "Hey, what do you think of this? The music's pretty good, huh? But I don't know about the rest."
Yeah. If I open
So,
myself up to it, I got off the
yeah.
plane the other day in Miami and got in a Uber, and this guy was like, he was making small talk, and eventually we're driving through Miami. He's like, "Look at these buildings. Don't you think there's opportunity there? Can I tell you my dream for a jewelry washing business?" And we had this great, he was just opened up and he's telling me what he wants for, his business, but also so he can like give his family a better life. I was like, oh my God, what an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
He wasn't labeled the conscious Uber driver. He was just like a human being, and I was open to the exchange, and it was so fruitful for me, the cab ride.
Mhm. 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 This is taking me back to high school. So I was an old goth in high school. I mean, we're talking way back
Oh
here.
yeah, you were.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, of course I was. I still have my old Doc Martens up in the closet upstairs, and what I remember perceiving even back then is, okay, we all like the same music, so we're all going to wear the same clothes, and we're all going to be a group together, and share that, you know, prop each other up in this, outsiders land, that we're in. But even then, I recognize that I'm far more fascinated by a person's inside than their outside.
Hmm.
And you can find the most beautiful and interesting insides in the plainest exteriors. And so I'm always sort of searching for that in, the people that I surround myself with. I
Yeah,
don't care what you wear now. You could wear plain white t-shirts and jeans every day of your life. Doesn't matter. If you're fascinating and gorgeous in there, bring it on. So just
I love it. I love it. Summer, I'm going to give you a magic wand. You can wave it in front of your face, and all of a sudden it's going to bring into like TV screens. You're going to go to everybody's home in the world. It's 2023. We're moving into
yeah.
2024. What do you say to the people of planet Earth? You get a whole minute.
Oh my God, stop fighting with each other. Like, come on, humanity. I'm going to go big level with this, right? I just
Yeah,
stop fighting with each other. At some point, we have to stop fighting with each other and stop fighting with the planet. Like we have wars on two fronts: wars with one another and wars with the very planet that sustains us. And
yeah.
I feel like humanity. Hey, everybody here, who are you fighting with? Can we just stop? Can we just stop?
Hmm.
That's what that would be my biggest message. Not that anybody would listen. I'm one of a million people who've been saying that through history.
Hmm.
Aside from that, yeah, just tell someone you love them today. That's another gift that going through my illnesses and so forth has given me. I think people are very stingy with their love. They say they're being selective, or they're having the boundaries, or you prove it to me, or you've got to earn it. If I like somebody, I just say straight up, I really like you. I tell my friends, my clients, I love you. And I mean it when I say it. It's not a thing. It's that
Hmm.
I see something in you that's beautiful and gorgeous and fascinating, and I choose to have you in my life. I love you. And I think we should be a lot more generous with that term. So pick somebody. Pick someone you wouldn't normally say it to. And if you can't say that,
Beautiful.
just say, I really like you. I really like you. Do you want to be my friend?
Beautiful. Well, we will close it down there. Summer, it was my treat having you on the show. I love your story. I love your vibe. And I'm excited for people to discover you through this platform, although you've been discovered for years and years and years. But we will support that amplification of that growth and all the good stuff you're doing in the world. So thank you for being a guest on the Beautifully Broken podcast.
Thank you so much, Freddie. It's wonderful.
Yes. Thank you. Big love.